Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace, my go-to for building a website and online shop. Hi everyone, it's me again. So the video I posted yesterday, I was setting up and getting ready to paint, and I was debating between whether or not to paint a still life that's quick and simple, and it's a nice kind of warm up to get back into painting after an over 4-month long hiatus, or should I paint something that can contribute towards my solo show? So I was deliberating over like painting something simple to go into my show, and I ended up wanting to sketch out some ideas and thought it might be cool to record this process and take you all along with me. Since these days it's so hard for me to find time to create content, I have to just film and make content out of every little step in my creative process. Anyways, what started off as a plan for a pair of simple paintings ended up turning into something way more complicated, but I'm really excited for the idea, so I think I'll keep it. And I'll probably end up switching out that canvas panel I prepped yesterday in exchange for a gesso board panel, which is sturdier and a lot more smooth for refined, tight rendering. Anyways, so this is how my thumbnailing process starts. I've loved thumbnailing on Xerox paper lately. I think I learned that tip from going to James Jean's exhibition and seeing his initial sketches were all done on just regular Xerox, like printer paper. And I like to start off with kind of abstract blobs. I wanted to do a pair of portraits, and so I just began with two kind of head-shaped ovals inside of these bounding rectangles that are roughly the aspect ratio of the 11 by 14 panels I want to use. And I want each of them to contain a different type of flower. Since my first solo exhibition, I want to have it be reflective of my fertility journey. The first set of flowers I was thinking of using is chrysanthemums, which are a traditional funeral flower used in Asian cultures, especially Chinese culture. So that one symbolizes the grief of loss. And then the second one was going to be lily of the valley, which according to Google signifies moving past hardship or the blissful arrival of spring, and the return of happiness. So I thought that one could obviously symbolize the ending of my fertility journey. Luckily, I had a happy ending there. So yeah, kind of like grief and joy as two paintings, because in my case, you can't really have one without the other. And initially, I just kind of sketched out these abstract blobs just to show how to frame the face and compositionally where to place the flowers, how big to make the flowers. I didn't have any references in mind yet. I just I looked at like pictures of chrysanthemums and pictures of lilies of the valley, but I just wanted to have that freedom to experiment and play around with things. I chose this kind of simple close-up portrait centered composition because I am easing my way back into making art, and I didn't want to do something too epic that involved like a figure or a complicated large environment. Just want to do close-up shots, very straightforward composition, and see where it takes me. Yeah, so this is kind of my initial thumbnailing process. The first few thumbnails are very small. They're almost literally the size of my thumb, and they're not meant to be pretty or even make sense or clean at all. They're just kind of to get me from a completely blank sheet of paper to putting down some marks. And they're kind of like seeds or sprouts for the ideas to continue to iterate and transform. After planting the seed, so to speak, of those initial first rough thumbnails, I like to draw a second set of thumbnails that are slightly bigger. I guess this is the kind of medium tier in terms of the roughness and open-mindedness of the brainstorming vibes of the first set of thumbnails, but also slightly more details so that I can flesh out those ideas a bit more. And with more space and higher fidelity, it gives me some time to weave some more elements into the narrative part of this, of the concept of the image. Sometimes it takes me many iterations of the initial first rough thumbnail stage before I even get to the second stage. In this case, because my compositions were relatively simple and straightforward, I was able to move on to this step a lot faster. But I remember when I was like a student at the atelier and creating larger, like multi-figure, full figure pieces, I would have pages and pages of those initial small rough thumbnails before I even moved on to adding a higher level of detail. The second tier of thumbnailing, I pay a little bit more attention. Like I'm actually trying to incorporate the correct anatomy and design of each of the different flower types. I'm adding in a tonal wash, so to speak. I'm technically, I could probably use Procreate or Photoshop for this step. But I really do like working with traditional mediums. And even though it's not the fastest route, there is something very like primitive and intuitive about just using a pencil to mass in some basic tone. I'm using a slightly unsharpened pencil on purpose because it can actually mass in tone a lot faster. And I like that it makes marks that are rough and fuzzy and imprecise, sorry. Because if I use like mechanical pencil or a pencil that's too sharp and too precise, it almost tricks me into rendering more detail than I want. So if I use this big, rough, unsharpened pencil, it kind of forces me to keep things a bit more simple and focus on the bigger picture composition rather than getting lost in the tiny details. And, as I make thumbnails that are bigger and bigger or make sketches that are bigger and bigger, I allow myself to add more detail, but I like to kind of creep towards that instead of doing it all at once. Instead of making the jump from, a literal thumb-sized thumbnail to like a fully fleshed out concept sketch, I like a few intermediary steps. So here you can see there's a lot of differences between the initial rough idea of just head surrounded by chrysanthemums to now I'm kind of designing how many blooms do I want of the flower? How big do I want the flowers to be? How do I want the flowers to be sitting on her head? Things like that. Or like where do I want there to be darkness in the piece versus lightness? Just kind of setting down a basic value hierarchy. Sometimes I'll also erase and redraw the bounding boxes to play with like repositioning the head in the composition. Like at first I thought her head was too far down, then I scooted it back up, etc. Also decided to make the grieving one with the chrysanthemums crying. And I thought it would be cool if her tears got into the flowers. The Lily of the Valley piece is a lot more difficult because Lily of the Valley is such a tiny flower and each stem has multiple tiny little blooms. So I have to intentionally design it in a way that doesn't look too intentional. I want it to give the randomness of nature, but also be compositionally elegant and well thought out. So like just, drawing these little circles that are placeholders for where the Lily of the Valley flowers are going to be. It takes some thought. You'll see me kind of drawing and erasing a lot until I find something I'm satisfied with. There's so much push-pull in the creative process, and I think that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. A lot of times people think that artists arrive at the perfect idea, and it's this linear path from having no idea at all to having a finished, fully fleshed out perfect idea, when in reality there's so many things that we try a little bit and then let go of and then maybe try again, revisit. There's a lot of uncertainty, and I think instead of kind of waiting for the perfect idea to show up or the perfect composition or just expecting yourself to get it right away, I think we need to really embrace and acknowledge that we have to make mistakes first. Put something down that doesn't look right, that makes you go, ugh. And then that's part of the inevitable journey it's like an inevitable step towards getting to the right idea. Because sometimes you don't know what looks good until you put down something that doesn't look good, if that makes sense. So yeah, this is just kind of, I think this is really interesting to record and to film this process, because normally this is something I just do in my sketchbook or, on sheets of Xerox paper, and I don't really show people. So trying to actually like film it and intentionally display it, I think is actually quite informative and interesting. I hope you all are finding this interesting. Anyways, I don't want to spend too much time on this section, because the next parts are going to be where I finally draw big enough concept sketches that I feel like I could potentially transfer them onto a panel and have those be the starting points of the actual painting. So by the time I draw the final set of concept sketches, I would have already had visited these compositions like 3 times. So I'm very familiar with everything. It builds some muscle memory. And the familiarity also gives me more confidence as I move into painting it. So like by the time I paint it, I've already kind of drawn and redrawn the same thing so many times that it's like ingrained in my brain and in my soul. It's just something I personally love to do. I love the repetition of being able to revisit the same idea multiple times, and each time you find something different, or you want to eliminate something different or add something different, and the story also evolves. So by the time I get to painting it, there are no regrets. There's nothing that as I'm halfway through painting, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have thought of that and added that sooner, but now it's too late. Like I give myself many opportunities along the way leading up to painting to change and evolve and finalize the idea and polish it up as much as I want. In the final sketches, I'm using a slightly sharper pencil. I'm using, by the way, Palomino Blackwing pencils instead of my usual mechanical ones. I don't know why. I think lately I've just felt more called to these wooden pencils. I think I do enjoy how they can be dull or sharp. Anyways, in this final process, I decided to add even more to the story. It's kind of hard to see with how simple the tone of the pencil marks are, but I want her to have like a glowing tear that drips down into the chrysanthemums, and then have the chrysanthemums be glowing, because I was Googling pictures of chrysanthemums and I found this like plant blog of someone who managed to grow like a glowing bioluminescent chrysanthemum, and I just loved how it looked. So I'm going to borrow that idea and make the chrysanthemums glowing from the inside. And I thought it would be cool if the glowing tear from the subject is what gave the flowers their glow, because light is going to be a theme I'm using to depict grief and emotions and the soul in this entire exhibition. So I definitely want light to be a component of important visual component of each piece. I know, light to depict the soul. Wow, so innovative. It's like that scene in Devil Wears Prada where she's like, florals for spring, groundbreaking. Meanwhile, I'm like, oh, light to depict the soul and emotion, groundbreaking. Anyways, also the Lily of the Valley piece. Since I started the whole light coming from the eyes idea, I decided to carry that into the Lily of the Valley piece, and also have her eyes be open in that one, have those eyes be glowing, and then have each of the Lily of the Valley pieces be glowing as well. So they're like almost like fairy lights. And that way the two pieces have a harmonious kind of narrative thread that ties them together. Both pieces, there's light coming from the eyes of the subject that are influencing the light of the flowers. They're all interconnected in that way. And yeah, the light from the subject is illuminating the flowers. And whether they're in grief or in joy, the intensity of that emotion is giving the flowers a lot of life and nourishment to bloom. Interpret that however you will. I like to leave these themes more open-ended so that we can all project our own experiences and interpretations onto it. But yeah, And with that, I am ready to transfer them onto the panels, which I will film for a future video because I have to go tend to my child now. And hopefully by the time I transfer it, I won't change it too much, but there are no guarantees. I might end up making another set of concept sketches, depending on how I feel when I wake up tomorrow and marinate on this idea overnight. But such is the creative process. So thank you all for watching and for bearing with me as I ease my way back into painting and making content. I really appreciate all of your support, and I can't wait to share the journey of these 2 new paintings with you. Okay, see you soon. Bye. And of course, you guessed it, my eternal never-ending sale is still going on in my shop. So if you'd like 20% off your order of prints and originals, just enter the code HOLIDAY at happyd-artist.com. And if you're interested in learning more about how to paint and draw, I have lots of art educational content on my Patreon page, including exclusive video tutorials, step-by-step photo tutorials, live streams, podcasts, and even surprise art gift boxes. All available at patreon.com/happydartist. I'd love to have you join my Patreon family. A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and supporting the art community. I've been using Squarespace for 10 years now, and it's been an integral part of being able to make a living as an artist. Aside from their beautiful customizable templates and easy-to-use interface, Squarespace now has so many robust tools to help make website building be both effective and intuitive. There's a new design intelligence feature that uses a combination of industry experience and cutting-edge AI to help you make a website bespoke to your brand and digital identity. Squarespace takes the intimidation out of setting up an online shop with their intuitive e-commerce platform that accepts every type of payment method you can imagine, all with just a few simple clicks, so you can easily sell your work all around the world. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/happydartist to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Also, if you want to check out more artworks, works in progress, and just random daily artist adventures, feel free to check out my Instagram, and you can follow me at the handle @happydartist.